Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Never Wrong, Maybe Right show. And I have a question for you guys. Now, I was just thinking about this. I was sitting down on Thursday to record this episode for the weekend for college football. And I was like, I want to hear your guys' opinion on this, by the way, too. Is Thursday the new, Friday? Because to me, like, you got Thursday night football on Thursday. You got usually a Friday college football game. Obviously, you have your Saturday and Sunday for football and the regular weekend itself. But it just seems like Friday is becoming so much more and more part of the weekend that Thursday is really the new Friday. Now, part of that is because I have a lot of my schoolwork this year is due on Thursdays for the week. And so it's like Thursday's the last working school day for me. And then Friday's kind of a relaxing day and then the weekend. So I don't know. That was just something I thought about. You guys can let me know what you think about that. If I'm totally wrong or whatever on that, then feel free to call me out in the comments down below and whatnot. But today's episode is going to be going over all things college football week 6, the show. No, week 5. I apologize. Week 5. Sorry. We're going to touch on the massive showdown, Colorado USC, on Saturday. We're going to touch on the Texas-Kansas game and the overall Texas outlook for the season. And then we're also going to dive into some Heisman rankings and stats and that kind of stuff towards the end of the episode. And then, we're going to get that upload for you guys so you guys can check it out. So I want to share my screen, first of all. We're going to go back and forth on the screen sharing this episode. So if we see here, what something happened to my, what? Okay, here we go. So the Colorado USC game, as we all saw, there was tons and tons of buildup, let me improve my size of my face. There we go. So as we all saw going into last Saturday, there was tons and tons of hype and build up on the Colorado Oregon game. Was Colorado going to shock the world? Everyone knew that Oregon was favoring the better team, but it seemed to me that it was more of a choosing with your heart over your head in terms of picking Colorado to win that game, because Colorado, I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but Colorado is the most bet on team for money line and spread over the weekend. And I saw one sportsbook in Vegas say that this was their biggest liability in over 3 years, and that if Colorado won, they would have owed gazillions of dollars and whatnot. Obviously, Oregon ended up winning and smoking them. They also covered the spread and whatnot, but that's behind us. Going into tomorrow's game, we know what we're getting from USC, right? High-powered offense, an offense that's rarely going to not score. Colorado, on the other hand, the question marks really start to raise and creep in, given how they played versus Oregon compared to the first 3 weeks, right? It's expected at this point for them to be without Travis Hunter, unless some miraculous miracle comes out in the news later today or tomorrow. The expectation is that he will not play and that he'll be back most likely next week against ASU, I believe, to see who they play. But we saw them putting up points, right? 45 against TCU. Was it 36 against Nebraska, I believe? 43 in overtime, but still, nonetheless, against Colorado State, and then a massive drop-off in 6. Now, is Oregon's defense the best defense they played so far? Absolutely, without question. Is USC's defense probably, while USC's defense is bad, it's based on just the sheer level of talent that they have, it's probably better than the TCU defense and the Colorado State defense. The Nebraska defense is questionable on who's better there, but it's probably better than the what's their name? The TCU defense, I'd say fairly easily. So going into this game, Colorado, USC is going to score, right? Colorado's going to get zero pressure. They're going to run the ball, but most importantly, they're going to throw the ball all over the field. Caleb Williams is. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes for 450 and 5 touchdowns this game. Would not be shocked at all about that. We saw that Colorado had no chance of stopping the pass game besides the one pick against Bo Nix last week. So you can expect about 50, 55 points is my expectation from USC. The question is, after watching last week's game, I'm not sure if Colorado is capable of scoring that many points for a couple of reasons. One, they're without Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is a bigger loss on defense than offense, I would say, but obviously a loss on both sides, without question. But with the way Oregon played defense and how exceptional they were on last Saturday, my thought process here is that they put so much good tape on film for future opponents, right? Oregon had 7 sacks this weekend. They should have cut out the ball. Oregon had more points than Colorado had total yards at halftime, right? And so my question is, even though USC has a lack of talent compared to Oregon on defensively, do they have enough talent to, for like half of the possessions that Colorado's on offense, match and mimic what Oregon was able to do on defense, right? Is the talent enough to where every other possession they can do exactly what Oregon did, get pressure and whatnot on Shedeur, force quick throws, force sacks, etc., get it behind the sticks and whatnot? I believe they can personally, right? So I don't think with USC, I think scoring at least 50 to 55 points. I don't see Colorado scoring more than 30 this game, and that's kind of a stretch. Maybe 35, maybe 31, but that's even max. That's like the best possible case scenario for them. Defensively for Colorado, you're hoping for Caleb Williams, he just maybe a deep ball and it's a pick, or you're hoping for someone fumbles or just stuff like that. You're hoping for big plays, explosive plays, right? So that's what you're shooting for there. Shedeur Sanders, this game needs to get the ball out quicker, right? I think it's partly on him and partly on the offensive scheme. If throughout this game they recognize that there is consistent pressure on Shedeur the entire game, then guess what? You can't call deep drop back passes only blocking 5 and 6. You're gonna have to block 7 if you want to run deep routes, right? If you're gonna get the ball out quick, then you gotta get the ball out quick, right? But you can't hold it and block 5 or 6. That's just not going to work if they're getting consistent pressure on you. Now, if you have plenty of time back in the pocket to sit back, read the defense, and make your throws, well, then of course, right? That's going to give them a better chance to win, right? If that's even the case, right? So we see the stats on here. USC's averaging 570 total yards. Colorado was averaging much more until last week when they had 200 total yards. With Colorado being so one-dimensional, like I've said in previous videos, you wonder how effective the pass game will be, even against a subpar defense in USC, right? So, given USC has the best player in college football in Caleb Williams and a multi-dimensional offense, run and the pass, you'd think there's almost no chance that Colorado can win this game, barring a miracle, right? Which Coach Prime, he's capable of that stuff. So what is the overall prediction for this game? What do I think will actually happen in this game? I am predicting USC 55, Colorado 17, right? I think Colorado will get 10 points in the first half. In the first quarter, on one of the 3 drives in the first quarter, they'll get a field goal. And then at some point in the second quarter, they'll get a touchdown drive, and they'll be down like 35-10 at halftime. USC will tack on about 25 more or so, and then Colorado will score like 1 touchdown, early fourth, maybe late third, something like that, to where it's kind of like, it's a charity touchdown, right? So that's what I have as my prediction for that game. One additional note I will say for this is that unlike all 3 previous games, well, Oregon's kind of questionable, but there has been absolutely zero talk at all from USC regarding Colorado. I have not heard any mainstream media news regarding USC's any sort of comments on Colorado. And you wonder, and I also haven't heard much Colorado talk either about USC. And my question is, did Oregon, when they thrashed Colorado, kind of officially, put an end to all this hype stuff to a degree, not officially over, but just like to a degree, tone it down a bit? Because I haven't heard Prime talking as much this week. So that's a question I have as well this week. And then lastly, there's all these big shows. Big New Kickoff's going to be there. Undisputed is going to be there this week. Speak for Yourself is going to be there this week. I'm kind of curious. So Colorado's 3-1. 3-1 is a good record, right? 3-1 is a good record. If assuming Colorado loses this game and they go down to 3-2 as a record, does the hype for this season until like a bowl game maybe kind of officially die and end? Like is there going to be, aside from the Monday mainstream media news on analyzing the game and what happened, is there going to be essentially 0 to none mainstream media news and talk shows and outlets discussing the game and Coach Prime and Colorado and whatnot? I kind of think there will be. I think that it'll be kind of, all right, Colorado's cool for their tier, but once they play the big boys, it's like, all right, they're not quite there yet. They need some linemen, D linemen. Once they get there, then it's a new story, right? Once they get the lineman this year, maybe next year or 2 years from now, then we're talking a different story, right? But currently, that's kind of what I'm thinking there. So those are just some thoughts on the Colorado USC. Like I said, 55-17 is my prediction for USC. We'll see if that comes true on Saturday. The game is actually it's a weird time. It's a 10 o'clock a.m. local kickoff for Colorado, 9 a.m. local for USC, 12 o'clock obviously for East Coast. But so an early kickoff for that game, but nonetheless should be a good entertaining game regardless of the outcome, right? So I saw that the Colorado-Oregon game, even though it was a blowout, peaked at 12 point something million viewers. With USC probably being a bigger market than Oregon, I think this thing could, if it's a close game, my goodness, right? But even regardless of the score, could probably peak at 13 plus million viewers, given the fact that it's USC, right? I saw some of the celebrities like LeBron James is going to be at this game. Snoop Dogg's going to be at this game. I forget who the others were, but a big celebrity list game as well. So really excited to tune into this game as well. And then lastly, looking at the lines here. I'll move my camera a little bit. So the over under, USC is obviously favored by 21.5. Same line as Oregon, but last week that was on the road. So that's saying that USC, 3 points for home, 3 neutral, 3 away. So you're looking at probably about a 27.5, 28 point spread for USC if they were at home in this game. Obviously, Colorado is a huge underdog favorite on the money line, plus 860. Over under is 73.5, which 55 plus 17 put it right at 72. Is that what? Plus 17. Yeah, my prediction was 72 points. So we'll see how that goes. I guess I would take the under on this game technically, I guess, but I'd be worried about it. I would not bet the over under this game, given USC's defense and how it's not quite what Oregon's is. You don't know how much Colorado's going to score exactly. So that's what's going on there. Moving on next. I will say we're going to touch on the Texas Longhorns game coming up this week. So they play Kansas, right? This is the Big 12 is, in my opinion, such a terrible conference in terms of overall talent, right? You have a ton of mediocre, you have a couple of great teams, right? Texas is obviously great. Oklahoma's like phenomenal so far, but you have quite a few mediocre teams in the conference, and it's like, how many real games are they going to play before making the playoff, right? And assuming if they can win the one loss, they could probably get in, right? That's kind of the expectation I would feel like so far. So when we look at this, they play Kansas. Jaden Daniels didn't play week 1, I believe. Quinn Ewers has looked fine, but not great. Texas is averaging 432. Both offenses can move the ball. Trust me, both offenses can move the ball. Texas is favored by 16.5, I believe, in this game. They're at home, minus 800 on the money line. Kansas is plus 540. What do I expect will happen in this game? I think Texas will win by probably a score and a half, probably about 10 points. I think the mobility of Jaden Daniels will help out a lot in this game. And I have not quite, now he played great against Alabama. Don't get me wrong. The last 2 games for Quinn Ewers, if you go over here and look at, have kind of been underwhelming, right? He plays at Wyoming, throws for about 130. They're tied in the fourth quarter in the Wyoming game. You see here, 11 for 21, 50% completion percentage, 130 and 2 touchdowns. Right, 9-0 TD to INT. That's great. Trust me. You guys know I'm a huge TD to INT ratio guy. I love that. But it's just, it seemed like a soft 290 and 1 touchdown against Baylor. Again, I understand they're blowing them out. You don't need to throw the ball 500 yards in that game. But I have not seen like a ton of wow moments aside from the Texas Alabama game, right? Where he was unbelievable, 350, 3 touchdowns, right? And so again, you could say I'm nitpicking. That's fair. That's a fair assessment here. But for a guy who's thought of to be a first-round draft pick this year and a Heisman finalist this year, I feel like it should be fair for me to expect more, especially when I'm watching what Michael Penix and Caleb Williams are doing out there out west. So, I think Texas will win by about 10 points. I'm going to guess 35-24. So actually 11 points. 35-24. And here's a question I have. I was thinking about this for Texas. If they win this game, are they kind of officially like they played Kansas and Oklahoma back to back, right? You see that on the left-hand side of the screen here. If they manage to win the Kansas game this week, can they afford a loss the rest of the year and still make the playoff? Because I think they can, given the fact that they beat Alabama, Had they not beat Alabama, I would have question marks about this. But the fact that they beat Alabama, right? You'll have beaten Kansas. If they beat Oklahoma, I think they're almost a guaranteed in because Houston got crushed by Kansas last week by 11, I think. Houston's not very good. Kansas State might be okay at that point when you play. That's a home game. TCU they've kind of fallen off the map of it. TCU has since their first loss against Colorado, and given the Colorado hype, they're going to be a fine and respectable opponent. Nothing crazy there. Texas Tech is 1-3. It's been terrible. Lost to Wyoming, lost to Oregon. Iowa State's not a good offense, right? So if they manage to beat Kansas and an unproven Oklahoma team in back-to-back weeks, are they basically a guarantee for the playoff if they manage to lose just one game the rest of the year with the rest of the year, including the conference championship? Because I would say they are. So I would say they have. I granted I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I did pick Texas to make the playoff. But I believe that Texas, if they manage to lose one game, will make the playoff. And with them playing an unproven Oklahoma team who's played really nobody yet, and Kansas, who did beat BYU, had a quality BYU win last week, but hasn't played anyone crazy yet. I believe that they will be able to make the playoff with one loss. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. And that also moves into our next topic, which is the Heisman rankings and race. So if you look at the Heisman odds here, let me stop covering it up with my camera here. So we see that there's co-favorites in Michael Penix and Caleb Williams. Quinn Ewers at plus 500, Bo Nix at plus 1,000, and Jordan Travis at plus 1,200. I'd say those are the only five that have a true chance at this point, unless we see some Joe Burrow legacy like end of the year stuff going on. I would presume that those are the five people who are going to win it. And honestly, if we're going to be honest, it's more likely I would say a 2-horse race with Michael Penix and Caleb Williams. Quinn Ewers, I almost wonder with the weak schedule and how he's played against his inferior opponents. If he was a guy who was like Michael Penix, for example, even against inferior opponents, is throwing for 400 and 4 touchdowns, right? With the fact that he's not throwing for insane numbers and in stats against his inferior opponents, makes me worried that he's not going to have enough stats to win it, right? The downside to Michael Penix and Caleb Williams is that they have such tough schedule that if they manage to falter once or twice, and a guy like Quinn Ewers or Bo Nix end up going undefeated, that's where those two can leap up in there, right? Jordan Travis has not looked great. Their schedule is a bit weaker. If we look at Florida State's schedule, it's not the toughest schedule of all time. They played Duke, which is a quality opponent, but other than that, I mean, Miami is not great. And they have no home field advantage for Miami. Is that game even home or away? That game's home. I mean, it's just a pretty weak schedule. I'm not gonna lie. No more quality opponents. They beat LSU. Quality winning against LSU. Don't get me wrong. But didn't look great against BC, did not look great against Clemson. Clemson missed a field goal late in the game. We saw that to go 27-24 with a minute left. So that's why Florida State and Jordan Travis are kind of a bit more behind. But why do I personally think that Michael Penix is higher than Caleb Williams? Not for draft sake, trust me, for Heisman race, but because this man's stats against inferior opponents is unbelievable. Again, all his opponents. Look at this. 455 touchdowns. 410, 3 touchdowns. 470, 4 touchdowns. 300, 4 touchdowns. Now, again, the TD to INT ratio is concerning, right? It's 16-2, 8-1 is not great, not ideal. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, has a 15-0 TD INT ratio. Now, this might come down. Now, USC and Washington, I believe, do not play each other. Caleb Williams, I mean, my goodness, 280, 4 touchdowns, 325, 320 for 5 touchdowns, 280 for 3, 320 for 3. Been phenomenal, right? 15-0 TD to ratio. And you guys know I'm a huge TD to INT ratio guy. Now, if I remember correctly, Caleb Williams does not play Michael Penix in Washington this year. Oh, they do. Oh my goodness. This game, Caleb Williams can win the Heisman here. We see hosts Washington, goes to USC. Caleb Williams plays well, wins both those games. You can book it, back-to-back Heisman winners. You can absolutely book it. Loses to Washington, loses to Oregon. That opens up the door for Bo Nix and Quinn Ewers and Michael Penix. But then Michael Penix and Washington play Oregon. Does Bo Nix show out in that game and Michael Penix struggles in that game and Bo Nix wins that game? That is maybe Bo Nix, right? And then with Quinn Ewers' lack of talent that he plays on the opponent, does he need to go undefeated to win the Heisman? Not make the playoff, but do they need to be undefeated to make to win the Heisman for him? I don't know. That's a question we'll have to see. But given the opponents they play, like USC still has Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon on the schedule alone at this point, current time, 4 top 11 opponents still to play in their schedule, right? Washington's schedule. We look at Washington's schedule. Like even them one of them going 3-1, Garrett, gives them a good chance to make it, right? Washington's schedule. We look at this. They still play an Oregon team. They still play a USC team, a Utah team. What'll be probably a top 12 team in Washington State at that point. An Oregon State team on the road. Like they still play 5 top 19 opponents, right? Oregon, for example. Schedule. That was the worst typing ever. They still play it. They have a gauntlet of a schedule still too. Oregon, they still play Washington on the road. Washington State, Utah, USC, Oregon State, 5, again, top 19 opponents, right? Two of those are top 10 on the road. So with the quality of schedule that we see here from the Pac-12, you wonder if one of those 3 quarterbacks specifically, but more importantly, Caleb Williams and Michael Penix, more specifically, put up some crazy numbers and managed to go 3-1 or 4-0 or 4-1 or 5-0 against that stretch of opponents, does that almost lock up the Heisman, right? And it very well may come down because all 3 of these teams play each other. So it very well may come down to who beat who, right? Did Caleb Williams beat Oregon but lose to Washington? Or did Michael Penix lose to Oregon but beat USC? Or Bo Nix beat both or lost one? Or, just all sorts of things, right? Now, Bo Nix probably has to beat both to win the Heisman. He's further behind because his stats aren't great for for this year. Respectively, given the teams he's played, and the fact that last year he was running a lot, he hasn't ran this year. I mean, they're fine. He's got a 11-1 TD/INT ratio. It's not bad, but no real rushing. Only 1 rushing touchdown this year. So, that's why he's further behind, I would say. But anyway, it's going to be an incredible race coming down the stretch. Again, and I didn't really talk about Quinn Ewers, who does he go undefeated and throw for 300 a game and 4 touchdowns, like averaging the rest of the year. That he's probably going to win the Heisman. Yeah, so it's a going to be a crazy race. What I would argue one of the closest races we'll have in recent memory. And obviously with the Pac-12 play, some incredible games coming down the stretch. But nonetheless, that is going to wrap up the show for you guys today. Appreciate everyone tuning in and watching the show today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the weekend. Watch the Colorado USC game on Saturday, the Texas-Kansas game at 12:30. Football all Sunday long and whatnot. And I look forward to seeing today's Thursday. I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday for the week 4 gambling show. And then we're in the weekend. So thanks so much for tuning in and watching, guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.